right, guys, so we've covered a lot of content already. Let's get to it. In my opinion, the most important part, troubleshooting. This is when you really take the beginner to a pro. So we're going to talk about 5 things, right? We're going to talk about the wire doesn't pass, reciprophasic variation, the dilator won't pass, dysrhythmias, and arterial pokes, all right? Some of this you may feel very comfortable with already, but hopefully we can teach you some tricks and tips along the way to feel even more confident and practice ninja central line techniques. All right, Sham, wire doesn't pass. All right, so at this point, I want you to create the problem first. So why don't you just take your introducer needle and get into the vessel.
45-degree angle. Make sure I'm right in the middle. As soon as I enter the skin, I'm looking up.
Perfect.
See my needle on the screen. I'm entering the vessel right in the middle. I'm in. I draw
Great.
my angle. All right.
So now you see Sham is ready to pass the guide wire. And as he passes, one of the most frequently encountered problems I see is the operator yields resistance to the guide wire somewhere between 2 to 10 centimeters of the guide wire. Now, first things first, you have to know that even on your guide wire, there are certain hash marks, right? Usually they're bold hash marks, each at about 10 centimeters. So pay attention to those hash marks on your actual guide wire to educate yourself where you're actually meeting resistance. Educate yourself that every problem that falls under the bucket of wire doesn't pass isn't going to have the same solution. So if you're encountering resistance to 2 to 10 centimeters of your guide wire, it could be that you've had a couple of pokes and now the proximal end of your needle itself, either the barrel of the needle or the proximal tip of your needle, has clot in it. And no matter how much you push, you're not going to push through it, and nor should you push through it. So what do? You take the whole thing out, grab some saline, flush, and make sure that your actual needle is patent. And sometimes you'll see that poof of clot come out, and then you have to try again. Okay, so you're back into the vessel. You've tried that. You've troubleshooted that. Back into the vessel. You get flow. You disconnect. You try again. And you're hoping that this time you'll have better luck. But again, you're a little further in, but maybe you're 5 centimeters in or 6 centimeters in, and you're still meeting some resistance. At this point, what has happened is you have probably, in your disconnection, in your heat, you've already missed once. You've probably, as you're disconnecting the needle to the syringe, that proximal hat has probably advanced either your needle a little too far or the needle's come back out. Especially if you have a heavier set person with a lot of subcutaneous tissue, your needle may just have popped out of the vessel. Solution: take out your guide wire, make sure you put it back into your straight sleeve, put your syringe back on, and just see, do you have flow? Usually, the first sign that you've either come out or gone too far in is you don't have flow. And if that's the case, put your ultrasound back on, relocate your needle tip, make sure you have flow. Got flow. Again, deep breath, disconnect, drop your angle of your actual needle, and try and advance the wire. And 9 out of 10 times, smooth like jelly, it passes. All right, so you encounter now 2 ways to troubleshoot the guide wire not passing. So you're moving swiftly along and you reach the second hash mark, or somewhere between the first hash and the second, i.e. between 10 to 20 centimeters, you start to feel resistance again. What do you do now? Sham, if you can show us, this is probably an issue with the fact that once your J-tip that has been straight in the sleeve of your wire and in the barrel of your needle, once it actually enters the IJ, it actually curls into a J loop again. Right? So it's possible that that J-tip, that proximal J-tip, is getting stuck at the connection of the IJ and the ipsilateral subclavian coming in. You may be getting hooked at that junction. So how do you unhook it? You simply take your guide wire and make a clockwise or counterclockwise motion. But first thing, before you do that, you sort of have to take about 2 to 3 centimeters back, turn it, and advance in one motion, a lot like your dilator. So let's do that again. So you're about 10 to 20 centimeters in, you meet resistance, you think, take a deep breath, and you think, okay, maybe I'm hooked at the IJ subclavian connection. So you take about 2 to 3 centimeters back, turn it around about 90 degrees, and forward in one smooth motion. And usually you can go through. Now, if you still meet resistance, the most important thing is don't push through it. What you want to do, unfortunately, is come out completely with your guide wire. Keep it in the sleeve. Perfect. Make sure you have flow again. Okay. And you can just sometimes try this whole thing again with a flatter angle. And again, try the twist at a flatter angle, see if that works. If that doesn't work, unfortunately, this is when you have to come out with a whole apparatus. And this, my friends, is the time when you use the micropuncture needle. And as Shyam was saying at the start of this video, you want to make sure that the angiocath is fairly loose. It's obviously not that loose that it falls off, right? But it comes in pretty tight in the packaging, right? So you, again, have that beautiful Shyam grasp and hold, right? Take your ultrasound probe again, plop it down, acute angle, get into the vessel. As soon as you're in the vessel, you're going to then take your ultrasound probe, put it down, take that hand, advance just the angiocath over the needle, take the needle out, and then advance your guide wire. Now, why would this work? What happens is the actual angiocath is longer than your introducer needle, and how far the wire gets deployed in the actual IJ. In comparison to your introducer needle alone, the angiocath deploys the guide wire now in a more proximal location and allows you that 20 gauge diameter in the actual vessel. And in your voluplegic patient, in your patient with large intrathoracic pressure variations, this can be a game saver. This can be a life changer. And you can then usually see that the guide wire is able to traverse and more smoothly go past that 20 centimeter mark, and you can then safely deploy your dilator and your central line subsequently. So in recap, we've covered 3 real scenarios of the wire not passing. One is when you meet resistance at the 2 to 10 centimeter mark, and that's probably because you have a little bit of clot, or in the heat of the moment, your needle has traversed too far in or come back out a little bit, and you need to just stay calm, make sure you have flow, make sure you're in the vessel, and try again. The 10 to 20 centimeter mark is a little more challenging, right? That's when you're a little more proximal and you're meeting a little more resistance, right? That's where you can try the guide wire both being taken back a little bit and then meeting a 90-degree turn and twisting forward. And if that doesn't work, you come out completely. You use the micropuncture needle. And if all of that doesn't work and you still meet resistance, that's when you have to give up. You don't push through exquisite proximal resistance. That can be quite catastrophic. Your patient may have an anatomical variant, your patient may have a clot, your patient may have other vascular abnormalities that you just don't want to risk and push through.